already looking ahead. We're one day in, and we've got a ton to talk about. And we're going to talk about probably one of the biggest trends of this year from the technical side, and that is quantum and what is happening in all of the worlds of quantum, whether that be quantum computing to quantum particles to maybe something else, and how other technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and the rest are also starting to cross over and utilize, or maybe backpedal a little bit from quantum as well, as we'll hear a little bit about in just a moment. But before we kick off and introduce each of our guests, a big welcome to you, our audience, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you're liking what you hear today, make sure you click that subscribe button. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today to share your thoughts and insights around different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, along with on-the-ground perspective as an investor. And as an entrepreneur, what better way to kick off your 2021 than joining us on the virtual stage that we have here for you at VCTV, and get the chance to pitch us, investors interested in your area of expertise, your company, product, or service, along with getting real-time feedback and building relationships with each of us, along with exposure to our exciting, awesome, wonderful VCTV audience as well. Do reach out, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. And a big thank you to the LATOKEN team for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and introduce today's panelists. Welcome to the two of you. I'm so excited to kick it off 2021 with both you. Lubna, let's kick it off with you first. A little intro, a little background.
Not used to going first. Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so very much. Well, I'm Lubna Dajani. I am a systems architect by education, and I have been interested in all emerging technologies and their impact on humanity and society. Quantum computing obviously is a huge innovation with enormous impact, especially in the areas of security, as far as at least in my areas of interest. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Gary.
Wonderful. Well, I'm tossing it over to the Grandmaster of Artificial Intelligence, ladies and gentlemen, joining us here for the first time on 2021 edition of VCTV. Welcome back, Mr. Fowler.
Well, you know, Kyle, it's great to bring in this new decade with you and Lubna. I gotta say, it's a fantastic time. So it's great to be here. So my name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've been doing companies a long time, since 21 years old. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. Glit Software was on the original management team of, and Eva.ai, which is my latest company that I formed almost 5 years ago now. Time flies when you're having fun, Kyle. Time flies.
Yes, it does.
I love artificial intelligence. I've been involved in AI for a long time also. A long time ago, I was involved in Ops 5 and Lisp back in the old days. And I say old days, you know, it's like a year ago's old days now. You know, I got to tell you, you know, seriously, the Chinese just said they have a quantum computer that's 100 trillion times faster than a supercomputer. And so, you know, I thought 10 billion times faster was a lot with Google, but this is fast. You know what I'm saying? So times are having fun. Anyhow, I'm an investor. I'm also the CEO and co-founder and president of Get Shit Done Venture Studios. We curate companies in AI and quantum computing to help them go global using Silicon Valley as a port. So it's great to be here. Great to be in the decade. Great to be in this year in. And hopefully it's going to be, I know it'll be a lot better than 2020 because we started off with VCTV.
Absolutely. That's right. That is right. Thank you, Gary and Lubna. Welcome both of you. Again, as I mentioned, you know, quantum is probably going to be the buzzword of 2021 in terms of what we're looking at from a technical side. It has such great impacts, and it's something we talked a lot about very heavily in the end of 2020, trying to understand a little bit more its impact and where it was going and where it was coming from. But we'd love to hear from both of you. Where is quantum computing going forward here in 2021? And maybe actually before we do that, Gary, I want to come to you first around what is quantum computing? For those that may not know this out there in our viewers, what is quantum computing? Why is this so important? You mentioned the Chinese or the China supercomputer and what is being put together there. Why is this such an important thing? So what is quantum? What is quantum
Well,
computing?
I mean, so remember, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania, Kyle. So I keep it real simple, right? But traditional computers are based on binary, right? Zeros or ones. But instead of zeros and ones, the quantum computers depend on what we call qubits, quantum bits or qubits. And the ability is that the information can survive and stay in multiple states at any one point in time. We call it superposition. So it just unlocks the computing power. And if we look at it today, so we know Google, Microsoft, and IBM are on the verge of this. Countries like China and Russia are deeply involved in quantum computing, but it's going to fundamentally change all aspects of our lives. I just wrote an article on quantum computing and drug discovery with AI. I mean, it's like we're going to live a lot longer and we're going to have things uncovered that we never thought possible. I also recently wrote an article on gene splitting and genomes. But imagine you can detect where your problem is and fix it before it's a problem. And so, think about cancer, think about diabetes, all the different things that can be addressed. I mean, our lives are going to fundamentally change. We're going to have our and now with the system, imagine if it's 10 billion times faster, as the Chinese said, 100 billion times faster, how much data can be put through it to be able to analyze those questions. So it's an exciting time. I mean, I can get into, photons and et cetera, but let's just say it uses storage, it uses computing power at a far different level than anything we thought. It's a difference between a cart in the old days where you had a horse and buggy and a Ferrari that's on a racetrack. I mean, it's maybe even more than that. Maybe it's more like going to Mars and the Dragon. So it's a quantum leap forward, Kyle.
I love the analogy. I love it. Lumna's loving it too. And Lumna, I want to come to you. I mean, as the system architect, I mean, this is something you love and crave of how systems are structured. So from that mentality, how does quantum really impact the future of systems, the future of our infrastructures, and the future of applications as we start to think about those?
Well, it's as Gary said, it is a quantum leap. It's an exponential at the capacity to compute. It goes exponential. So the applications are, as you can imagine, are vast. Be it in aerospace or logistics, military, pharmaceuticals, you name it. When you combine that with you put that power with AI. Then you can see why so many countries and nations are looking at quantum computing for cybersecurity and the such.
So with that being said, I mean, you mentioned the impact on society. So let's switch quickly to that. And then I want to get into the investing side of this. I mean, as more and more countries are looking at this from a security side, you mentioned how it has such an impact on the future of security. Gary's touched a little bit about that as we ended 2020, but I mean, what is some of the impact that quantum is going to have in our lives over the next 10 years as it starts to be introduced? And Lubna, we'll start with you. I know you're not used to going first. I'm throwing this to you. I
know. Why are you doing this to me today? As we are at large, whether it's quantum or compute or artificial intelligence, and all of the different the technologies that are being that are coming to a level of maturity and a level of adoption, and as we are becoming enough aware of life as we know it is rapidly changing, and now with this with the latest and greatest of 2020's COVID and all the lockdowns and all the changes and all the political scene, and we can see that there's the trust in society, the trust in governments, trust in our currencies has all gone up in the air. Look at Bitcoin, for example. I mean, it has Gary, how much did it go up this year, this last week?
I mean, I don't know where it is right now. I don't know, 30,000?
$34,000. It goes to say how far we've gone in terms of our trust in technology versus our existing society, is our existing structures, our existing governments, and the protocols that we've taken as normal. So I think today is maybe it's our first day here with VZTV, but give us by next week it might even look completely different. I mean, maybe Bitcoin will be at 100,000. Who knows? Yeah, I think this is the time for us to reset our priorities and to get a grip on what really matters in life, and where we invest our money and how we apply these very powerful technologies becomes at the heart, needs to become at the heart of our thinking.
Absolutely. And Gary, thank you, Lubna. Gary, anything to add in terms of quantum's impact on society? I mean, you've mentioned a little bit of how it could impact blockchain, how it also will impact security, furthering Lubna's point. Where are you seeing its impact, or how are you seeing it today as we look ahead?
I mean, the thing is, I just wrote an article in Forbes about this, and I mean, it's just, I mean, think about drug discovery, right? So just look at diagnostic and healthcare and the capabilities in areas like finance. So fraud detection, right? It relies on a pattern recognition. So the quantum computers can detect fraud early and increase the analysis and the speed to make sure that it's addressed. So look at about, things like healthcare, drug discovery. I just did a panel in Europe a few weeks ago, actually, I guess 6 weeks ago, on AI and drug discovery, and I started to mix in quantum computing. But think about it. We have these COVID vaccines for the most part because now they're starting to do bench models, not bench models, but simulations, and using artificial intelligence. Well, think about quantum. So okay, on the slow side, it's 10 billion times faster. I mean, it's crazy how much data could be processed. And they said it was going to take 2 years to come out with a vaccine for coronavirus. Here we've got the vaccine already being implemented. I'm not sure I want to be the first taker, but we got a vaccine that's implemented. Diagnostics in healthcare. And I'm serious, Kyle. I'm not sure I want to be the first one.
It's okay.
But so what I see is every fiber. This is like, I mean, what's happening? I talked about AI as a new electricity. This thing is exponentially bigger. This is going to take us to planets that we didn't even know existed. We don't even know exist today. This is that big. It's going to fundamentally change. It's gone from being an okay person to coming into the, to landing on the moon, going to Mars. It's that much of a shift. It's going to change the fabric of society. And Lubna's right on target. I mean, think about it. We got to be careful that we don't militarize these quantum computers, because literally you're going to have countries going out with each other. You won't even need to have weapons. You'll have the quantum computers running everything for you, right? And what happens when you use unsupervised AI and the quantum computers start thinking on their own?
Right. Well, so that was going to be my follow-up to you, is how does artificial intelligence and quantum play together, or do they not? And what does that world look like as well?
It's an entirely different world, Kyle. It's an entirely different world. And, I've said many times, we better make sure that we train compassion and emotion AI into these systems, because if they're pragmatic, I'm not sure they're going to really like who we are, right? So we better make sure that we use the right kind of training sets. And in terms of humanity, we're going to have to shift our, we're it's like gone from the dark ages to today. And we better make sure that we address those issues, because here we are talking about systems that are 100 billion times faster, and we can't even get a roll of toilet paper in San Francisco today, right? I mean, it's like fundamental stuff. We better not forget the fundamentals. And, you know, as I said many times, it's keep it simple, stupid. Let's use it to be able to do good things for humanity, not go after each other. Let's figure out how we can survive as a species. You know, we're here a limited amount of time on the planet. Living longer and a more wholesome, kind existence is not a bad thing. And at the same time, we need to start to explore other worlds, because there's so many Earth-like planets out there. 6 billion just in the Milky Way galaxy, estimated, and 100 to 200 trillion within the universe. So there's a lot for us to do together, and we've got to figure ways to be able to travel through wormholes, to be able to adapt as a society to other planets, terraforming, etc. And these quantum computers with artificial intelligence, if we do it the right way, can help. And if not, nothing good's going to happen. Let's just put it that way. Nothing good.
Which I think is the picture that you both are painting, and, you know, dialing it back to the basics. So as investors, where do you begin if you're looking to begin investing around or in quantum computing, the industry and the technology itself? Because it is very vast, all puns intended, but where do you begin? I mean, it's a very technical thing to understand. One, there's many places that it intersects. It's also a raw technology as well you can invest in. So where do you begin? Lubna, let's start with you. As an investor, where do you begin investing around quantum?
Well, for me, security is an area that I have been focused on, because digital trust from silicon through to service delivery is essential. The power of the impact of our digital lives on our totality of our well-being is enormous. That noise in the background. You know, quantum. Well, digital accelerated our ability to compute, to process, to access information by a multiple. When you add quantum to that, then you can imagine everything accelerates at quantum speeds, and that can be applied to good, and it can be applied to bad. And it is, and I always say, if man, when it comes to security, if man make it, man can break it. So it's essential that we look at, for me at least, I think, where as Kyle mentioned, in terms of AI, how do we put empathy into AI, but not only put empathy in a way that is used to understand people's emotions, so that you can manipulate their behavior, understand when you can best get them to the yes you wanted, but also but rather to empower individuals to understand their own digital, to become more aware of themselves, to become more aware of what it means to be a living in a digital in a digital space. We are no longer only living in a physical world, we are living in a physical and a digital world. Like I say, imagine if you woke up tomorrow morning and it was a very sunny day, so sunny there is no cloud of any form. What would happen? I mean, if our data, our money, our pictures, our everything is now in the digital realm. And if you are compromised digitally, the quality of your life, you are guilty until proven innocent. I'm sorry, but your house won't let you in if it was smart, and you may be arrested on the spot because you now have a criminal record. If, let's say, rather than the cloud is gone, it was a randomizer happened, and not to give any ideas, but then, you know, Gary's bank account becomes mine and mine becomes his. I'd be the winner here, but But you
Oh, no, come on. Kyle's the Bitcoin guy.
oh, Kyle, oh my God, Kyle, I hope you're taking us all out soon.
So someday I owe all three of you coffees. I mean, someday coffee.
Yeah, coffee, yeah. Well, so, but in seriousness, it's really the decisions we make today are going to frame the choices we have tomorrow. If we continue feeding greed and living off of fear, we'll all be running to get to be the guinea pigs of the I still can't get over Gary's not going to be the first to go for it. I think I won't be the second either. But in seriousness,
Kyle, it's your time.
You know, someone's got to step up. I'll take the hit for us. But sorry, Lubna, you had one more point you wanted to make.
No, but really the point is, I think, you know, quantum computing can if technology at large and quantum is just takes it to an exponential, can really help us accelerate reversing much of the damage that we have created because of our past mindsets and frameworks, and we can today. Unfortunately, it would be nice if we didn't have to worry about security, but we surely do. And it's, you know, there's a lot to reverse in our, and Gary is the psychologist, as well as the investor and the AI super genius. So he can tell you a bit more about that. But we have a lot that we need to reverse. And what's exciting is life is very forgiving and it's resilient, and we have the tools today that can help us actually by the end of this year to be notably reset. So where we invest, as long as any technology we invest in can be used for good or it can be used for bad, and I guarantee you, and I will guarantee you, that by adopting regenerative practices, practices that prioritize a planetary, social, and personal well-being, will yield us all much greater returns.
Absolutely, and thank you, Lubna. Gary, to you, same question. I mean, as an investor, where should you be placing your bets, or where should you be thinking about entering the game around quantum and quantum investing, or investing in quantum?
So
since quantum investing could be something
quantum
different.
investing, I do one. I got to tell you.
I like I said,
I kind of like that.
I've learned from you and Lubna. I have to be careful when we talk about quantum and the words that I use, because it, you know, curveball or, you know, bend, certain words like that totally take a different meaning. So sorry, apologies.
Or entanglement.
There you go.
I think that, you know, so where these technologies are coming up is they're in research institutions or in governments. So you need to go to the universities that are doing the research in quantum and start there. I mean, that's where it gets really interesting. And Lubna's right. I mean, cybersecurity is going to be a big factor. The other thing is, you know, today we don't have a network to be able to support quantum computers. So a quantum network has to be built. And we've already started. I mean, the government, the DARPA started in, I think, 2003, developing a quantum network. But we need to, you know, build the infrastructure out. And we need to think as a society very, very deeply about how we want to use these systems and how we're going to need to mature and move from our, you know, as we say, the reptilian brain, right, to a more mammalian existence, so we can, and our neocortex, how we can live together as a society, because we're getting into a realm that's beyond our comprehension. We're creating things that, you know, I almost said like godlike, but I mean, really, seriously, we're creating something that's totally different, and it could be another form, right? It could be literally another form, and we need to make sure, you know, I always believe in, you know, the positive parts of life, doing the right thing, trying to treat people the way you want to be treated, but we better start doing that across the board. I saw something a couple weeks ago where a guy was kicking a robot. I don't know if you saw it, and it was disgusting. You know, I actually felt bad. And, you know, in a few years, if we do that, they might take your leg off. You know, I mean, those kind of things, we're going to start to have rights for robots as we start to build consciousness within the robots. We're going to have rights. What kind of rights do they have? And, you know, we better build, as I said, compassion into the systems, because if these systems aren't compassionate, why would they ever need us around? Really? And at the same time, you know, the planet Earth will last another few billion years. What's going to happen after that? We're not going to be here. We're really setting the seed for where we're going to go, you know, as we start to navigate the wonders of the universe. We're going to need help. We're going to need technologies that can assist us. So I would say more in a companion kind of way, assistant way, to be able to help guide us where we want to go. And then, of course, singularity starts to come into play too, right? Where are we going to be, you know, in terms of adapting these technologies like Lubna's done already, put, you know, devices, encoded devices in us, memory. You know, if you want to go to Harvard, there's a chip, you know, you just pass through and in 5 minutes, you have a Harvard education. So having those kind of, and we're not that far away, Kyle. I mean, we're really coming close to this. Living to 150, as I've said many times, using these technologies to aid in drug discovery and, you know, to be able to understand what kind of cancer we have and to treat it directly, gene slicing, gene splitting, genomes, understanding what we're made of, and to be able to course correct. And we're right on the cutting edge of it, really on the cutting edge, which is interesting. So in terms of investment, I mean, it's all of the above, but we need to start. The universities are the places where this technology is coming out of. You need to go near those universities, get close to those folks, because it's going to go from the academic world to the commercial world, as it does, right? When I remember sitting down with Vinton Cerf a number of years ago, actually several times, once in California and a couple times over in Russia, we were talking about when he developed the internet, as opposed to Al Gore at DARPANET. And, you know, you couldn't envision at the time how broad this was going to be. And quantum computers is just taking this is like the internet on steroids, because it's going to change everything.
Right. So speaking of that, real quick question, you mentioned quantum networks, and we need to build out this network and build out this infrastructure. What is a quantum network? And what does that mean that we have to build this out?
Well, there's no network connecting quantum processors or quantum repeaters outside of a lab today. There is no network, Kyle. I mean, for the most part, other than, you know, the DARPA is a defense department of the US. So we have to create a network that will allow us to be able to communicate. So we're doing it. There's some studies have been done in Europe, but we have not created. I mean, you need an internet for quantum. That's it, right? And so these quantum computers are not something you're going to have in your house for the most part, right? You're talking about photons, you're talking about, so, I mean, I look at it as at some point we'll have a quantum network and it'll be like time sharing, where you can take a part of that quantum computer, at least in the beginning, and use that time. But today there's no communication for the most part that exists. So, you know, you've got DARPANET, the Chinese have a network, Geneva, you know, Swiss Quantum. So we started. This is the same journey that DARPANET started before it became the internet. And we're on that journey now with quantum.
This is very similar to the early days of cloud computing. I mean, we've had distributed computing for many years, and that's how a lot of scientific experiments or discoveries were made, right? We're distributed computing through research. And now we have cloud computing, which is kind of an evolution of that. It sounds like now we have a similar progression we're about to make, where quantum is currently in the lab being tested on, and soon it will go into a distributed fashion to be leveraged. And then maybe one day we'll have a quantum computer on our wrist, or maybe not, because we won't be able to handle the computing power based on how powerful these things can be. Or we will be the computer itself, to take an analogy as you mentioned. With that
we may be in the computer and not even have ourselves. We may not have carbon. We may not be the same anymore. It may change everything, Kyle.
It may. I mean, this goes to Luna's point.
Dawn
I mean,
comes
we
to
are
life.
right. I mean, good one. Good example, Lubna. I mean, Lubna mentioned a good point of how we are now living our lives more digitally than ever, and we're waking up daily to a physical and a digital world. Right before, it was just a physical, and we leveraged the digital world when we needed it. Today, we're actually living both, and soon we'll probably make that transition to full digital. Right, where it just won't be a physical life anymore, which will be interesting. But with that being said, I want to come to both of you.
I mean, Kyle, technology moves forward very quickly. I mean, not just one point. So, I said to my wife, I said, I love my dog a lot. If something happens to my dog, it'd be hard to replace her. What happens? A friend of mine tells me about that for 50 grand, I can clone my dog. Clone my dog, right? So I can always have the same dog, at least looks the same, right? And technology is moving in so many different ways. The key is, how are we going to understand how to be able to set up our society so we do the right thing in the right way? And that's where the challenge is. I know the technology will be developed, but we got to make sure we're not trying to totally dominate one another with the technology. Of course, if you have a quantum computer and you're first in, it's like having a nuclear weapon. I mean, you can control everything.
Right.
You could lock everybody down.
And Lubna, you had a point. Thank you, Gary. Lubna, you had a point. It sounded like you were trying to make as well.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think I was inspired by you saying we won't be living, there won't be a physical. And I mean, as long as there's Earth, it's this. I mean, to me, I sometimes wonder when and this is coming maybe off topic, when we talk about looking at life, how life on other planets, and I feel that our thinking is limited to our physical form. I mean, but there is more to being a human, or to being alive, to life, than just the physical form. And I sometimes wonder, why do we limit ourselves to looking for planets or places where we could exist in our current form? Evolution. We've evolved to be in this form, to adapt. We're always evolving to adapt. Why are we not unleashing our creativity and our technology and science to see of how do we evolve ourselves to a higher form where we can adapt to different conditions? We look for life on other planets that mimics ours, or that resembles ours, I should say. But maybe we're overlooking the fact that there are other ways to exist than the way we are existing. I mean, and it's and Gary talks about talked earlier to the point of whether you're cloning the dog, but in truth, we have already played God. I'm sorry to say, but we've given life. And we have, and I have sat in debates about the rights of the machine, and what rights are we giving it. So we really, and someone said, well, we should let the machine fight for its right, like women had to. And I didn't know how to take it, but being at the table. But really, the thing that we need to think about more than anything is not what quantum computers can do with technology, because quantum computing can affect everything. Everything is accelerated, and it's not just accelerated. It is beyond the boundaries of our thinking. So what we really need to bring it back to the very, very basic of what it means to be human, and what it means to be alive, and what is the value of your everyday, the life that you're living. We are all handed equally 24 chips a day as we've divided them. Where do you want to put them, and what sort of life you want to have, and invest your money and your time and your energy in the things that will bring that to reality, that well-being, because who wants to be living in misery? And I don't really care how much money or coins or whatever it is that you think you have that elevates you to being the richest or the most powerful. In my world, the most powerful person is the one who can affect more joy and more laughter and more really fun in life. So that's what I'm hoping we would invest our resources, because the technology is immensely powerful. It is more powerful than we are. We have surpassed our own abilities. We just have to, it won't take long. If we don't put it together, that it will put itself together. And then what?
Mm-hmm. It's a powerful statement. Thank you, Lubna. Powerful statement. I mean, that's a great way to kick off the year, but also just a very good way to rethink where you're spending your time and money, as you said. I mean, that's a powerful statement. I'm a little lost for words. It's good in a good way. It's a very good, powerful statement. And
okay, I'm not saying anything else, Matt. Then
perfect. Then Gary, I'm going to close with you. Areas of opportunity, or predictions for 2021 and where quantum goes from here as we come to close.
Yeah, so
Lubna's done.
Hey, don't
Lubna's never done. Come on, Lubna. So, I mean, the situation with AI and quantum computers, very interesting, as you know. I mean, AI is there, and we need to explore uses for AI across the board. And in terms of just look at quantum is really the turbocharger. So where can we use AI today, which is being done in drug discovery, manufacturing? We got issues with our supply chain. We've talked about it many times, and we still haven't solved it. You know, this idea of just-in-time inventory, et cetera, just isn't working for a lot of things. And toilet paper. And I mean, it's like amazing. Here we are, advanced society, and we can't get like fundamental, you know, something fundamental. The stores are out of stock for the most part, right? And so
invest in bidets.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we need to look at, you know, sometimes we think so much about the difficult technical things in life, we forget about the simple. So, and this is just one thing. When it starts to be drug supplies and issues where it's life-threatening, that becomes a real challenge. So we need to look at our systems. And so artificial intelligence, go near university cities if you want to invest in quantum. It is going to happen. Think about the future and keep your mind open, you know, stay positive and research, right? Quantum networks, quantum computing. It is not stable yet. And if you want to get into it, you can write me, VCTV. You can catch me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can get me on Twitter, Gary Fowler. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Again, we help companies go global, and we're looking for AI and quantum computing companies. So reach out. Happy to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Lubna, to you. I know you're not done. I know you've got more to say, but where are those areas of opportunity? What do you see as the prediction for 2021? And of course, where can everyone find you?
Well, Gary forgot to say one last thing is also Gary gets shit done.
Yay!
And that's what we need to get.
Oh my God, I love it. You made my day, Lubna. That's right.
You know.
Yeah, that's great. Thank
you. Yeah, so again, I mean, I'm involved with, as you know, I'm a coach for some of the investments that rise in 2020, and indeed the quantum project that we've funded is out of Delft University, and so yes, and I think it's a great place to start. This whole private, public, and academic partnerships is where it's at, and where a lot of innovation happens. And what's important is to, as Gary said, not just empathy, but compassion. Because empathy, understanding how we feel, but then how do you apply it in a way that is compassionate and that is for planetary well-being. I'm Lubna Dajani. Everywhere you can find me at Lubna Dajani. And thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, thank you both. I mean, thank you both, not just for your thoughts and insights around quantum and quantum computing, quantum networks, and where this entire technology is going to go here in the next couple of years, but also being the first two guests here on VCTV for 2021 with us. I mean, this is exciting for me. So it's an absolute pleasure. And we've set the bar very high for every other episode for the next 364 days. So audience, get ready. We've got more to talk about. So much is going to be happening here in 2021, as we saw in 2020. We were filled with content, filled with changes, filled with all kinds of different examples of where technology and industries were intersecting. 2021, pardon me, will be even bigger as well. And Gary and Lubna are setting the stage for that as well. And make sure you do reach out to both Gary and Lubna in their respected social networks or contact information. And remember to add context when you do, so that you can continue that discussion properly and also build a good foundational relationship with them for the year ahead as well. And audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do check out the archive as well, as we have episodes ranging from all different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, and the on-the-ground perspective of what's happening from some of the best and greatest minds, along with investors from those areas as well, sharing so much that's valuable for you as well as both investors and entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs, what better way to start the year here in 2021 than joining us on the virtual stage to pitch us your company, product, or service, get real-time feedback, build relationships, and get exposure to the entire live community. Again, thank you so much, Gary and Lubna, for kicking us off here in 2021. Very exciting. We've got more to come here on VCTV, and a big thank you to the LA Token team for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott, along with both our guests today. And we'll be back here again with more VCTV tomorrow and so much more to talk about. Take care, everybody.